to watch online with you while you're watching the live stream.
You can click on this plus button where it will pull up a list of your friends where you can invite them to join you in watching the live stream. You can do the same on your mobile device. So if you go to this share button here, you will be given a list of your friends where you can send them an invite to watch along with you while you're watching the live stream.
Thank you so much for watching, guys, and we hope you stay connected with us, and make sure to like our Facebook page so that you can get all of the updates on what's happening here at Family Church. Hi guys, I'm Katie, and we at Family Church wanted to show you guys how to give on our live stream website.
At live.ourfamily.church, you will see the option to give online on the right-hand side of your screen. You will be taken to a safe environment where you can see that your connection is secure. There are two options when you go to give. You can give one time or set up a reoccurring gift.
So that's it, but we really want to know how we can support you and your family during this time. So please let us know, and we'll continue to be praying for you guys.
Hi there, welcome to our Thursday, online community here with Family Church. Thanks for being a part of this. We always tell you this at the beginning. Please hit the share button because somebody out there who's on Facebook right now needs to hear these testimonies. We've got some amazing stories from 3 different groups of people, and you are going to love it, and other people may need to hear it, so please do that. Also, this Sunday, a little bit different, new broadcast times. We used to be 9:30 and 11. It's going to be 9 and 11. Join us for the 9 o'clock or the 11 o'clock, either one of them, and you can be a part of it. Of course, we'll have our kids experience takeover right after that. It's going to be fun. And finally, thank you for giving. You guys are just so generous. You're helping us do this. This is our new way of doing church right now, and it's being effective in reaching out and giving hope and giving encouragement to everyone out there. So today we're going to be focusing on telling your story. We have 3 different groups of people, as I said. They're going to come up here and tell their stories, how God really met them in their life at a time that they needed it and changed their life also. First up, I got Max Winfrey here. Max has been a great friend. He's a stunt comedian. He's worked in show business many years, cruise lines, and also doing live events, right, for churches or organizations and that sort of thing. He's originally from Richmond, Virginia. Been here 35 years in Orlando.
Can't believe it.
How do you get into stunt comedian? Because it doesn't seem very funny if you keep falling down on your face.
I don't know. I was a kid and saw a juggler when I was a teenager, and I had to learn. I just was compelled, and next thing you know, I got a job 2 years later as a theme park juggler. So
yeah, and then also you still have that Guinness World Record?
For the axe juggling.
Axe
No,
juggling?
I think they gave it to a guy that did hatchets instead. So
Did they? I was there for that. It was pretty amazing.
Yeah, you almost chopped your foot off.
I said, hey, let me try. And I went,
He flips an axe with a sandal on, and it landed right
I wanted to be
beside
Max.
his sandal.
It
Oh my
didn't
gosh.
work. But then,
That was a miracle right there. You can tell that testimony.
yes, I'll give my testimony next week. I almost chopped my foot off.
I think we're too relaxed. These chairs, it's like I'm not here to share testimony. It's like I'm going to do psychotherapy or
He's
something
sinking.
with Troy.
But the other thing, and this is also cool, you were on America's Got Talent,
Oh, yes.
and you went pretty far on that one.
Yeah, I got to Vegas, and then I could tell they weren't really interested in me, so
Oh.
that was it. But it was great. It was a
Since
great
it happened in
experience.
Vegas, you didn't have to tell us that, but you did, and it's out there.
Yeah,
now.
it was a great experience, and I got
Oh.
some good TV tape out of it, which was great for corporate work. And
Yeah.
Yes.
But you're, faith-wise, grew up in a Christian home, right?
Yes.
Parents were Christians, and you had all that advantage.
Terrific parents that lived by example, and they taught Sunday school. They taught the Bible down at the jail and the prisons. And if it was funny, people would call the house and they'd ask where my parents were, and I'd say, "Oh, they're in jail," and the people would apologize, and I'd say, "That's okay. I'm used to it. They're in and out almost every week."
It's a work release program.
But yeah, terrific parents.
And your dad worked for Gideon's.
Yes, he was a Gideon, did a lot of speaking and fundraising for the Gideons. I just, I'm a cautionary tale because I grew up in church and just had terrific Christian parents that lived by example. But as I got older and I went off on my own, kind of got involved in show business after high school, I kind of drifted away from my faith. And I love to warn people, especially young people that might be watching, just because you grow up, maybe you're a Christian and you have that week in and week out faith-based life, doesn't mean that you can't drift away from it. And it sneaks up on you. It's not something that you realize. It just kind of happens over time. And it's all about that personal relationship with Jesus. That's what you really need to concentrate on and stay close to him.
As somebody who also worked in show business, if today Jesus would have said, it's hard for a celebrity to go through to
the eye of the needle.
The eye of the needle, right? And the camel and that whole story would have applied to celebrity and getting the attention. And you were getting some of that, on stage and success.
Yeah,
there.
and whenever you have a passion for something in your life and you get some accolades, it's easy to start thinking, oh, I got this rigged, man. I don't need anybody. I don't need anything. I don't need the Lord. I can do this on my own.
Applause.
And and then that's what happened to me. I went through my 20s. I got married and I had a child, and then a number of years later went through divorce, became a single father. My ex-wife you know, she still was involved with our daughter's life, but she kind of wanted to go off and do her own thing. So I had a lot of responsibilities as a single dad, and that, you know, traveling, trying to be an entertainer while being a stay-at-home dad, it was really hard. And so I remember that was kind of the time when I had a person here from the church who started witnessing to me, saw what I was going through, and invited me down to First Baptist of Windermere, and I was kind of thinking about it. And at the same time, I had a pretty serious car accident. It was more of a scare than anything of an injury, but
Could have been worse.
I was on my way back from South Carolina. I was working with the Gatlin brothers. I was in the car by myself, and I just remember this lady drifted into my lane and knocked me off the road, and I went sideways down a median at pretty high speed, and I thought the car was going to be flipping like a NASCAR wreck. And I cried out to the Lord. I just said, Lord, spare me. I want to be alive for my daughter. I want to be able to take care of her, and he did. I was okay from the accident, and I left the scene and went to the closest church I could find.
Wow.
And rededicated my life to Christ.
Wow.
That day. And you know, my life's been on an upward trajectory ever since that day. And I always like to tell people, you know, there's a verse in James chapter 4, verse 10 that says, humble yourself before the Lord and he will lift you up. And that's what happened to me is I had to come back to him, and I had to say, Lord, I can't do it without you anymore. I don't want to live without you. I'm giving you over control of my life. And when you do that, you never know how the Lord is going to bless you. It's not only, you know, you're living your purpose that he has for your life. It's also that peace that he gives you, even in difficult, uncertain times like we're living now, which can be very scary. You know, in show business, we're not doing anything. I don't even know when show business is coming back or what it's going to look like. But it enables me to go, hey, I've been in full time in show business here and traveling all over the world for 35 years. And he gave me that tremendous blessing. I'm excited about what the next chapter is that he has for me.
Well, thankfully, it only took you one little scare to wake you up, because it takes many people a number of layers of scares.
Well, there was a
setbacks.
process there. You know, there's a lot of pride when you're off doing your own thing and you're thinking, you know, I got a pretty good life. I got it together. I didn't have a drug or alcohol problem. I wasn't out there gambling and living it up. I mean, but you know, the Lord will get your attention. The most important thing at that time was my daughter.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you would call her my idol, but running off the road in that car and almost dying, that was what I was thinking of.
Right.
Was I'm not going to be there for her. And I cried out to the Lord. So I was humbled basically by the thing that was most important to me, which was my daughter.
When you think of, you know, the blessing that occurred afterwards, after you humble yourself, surrender your life, Lord blesses you. You got remarried, wonderful wife.
Another
brought
God thing.
two wonderful daughters into the relationship. Brooke is now
30 years old,
working in television, and Cammie and Haley are serving the Lord.
Yes,
and the family.
I met my current wife a number of years after the divorce, and you know, after being a single dad, and just the day I met her was a God testimony right there. I said a prayer because I was in a pretty good space at that time, and I said, Lord, it sure would be nice to meet the one you have in mind for me. Within an hour,
Wow.
I met Carolina, and we were married 1 year later.
Wow, that's a
and then
dating
we were
advice
both
book.
in an airport that day, in the Atlanta airport, and neither one of us were supposed to be in that airport that day. We were both sent there from different paths because of a hurricane. So
Yeah.
never know how God's going to bless you.
You absolutely don't. Well, a great story about being humble, surrendering your life, allowing God to get you to that point where you're on your knees and you give it all to him, and then your life turns around and he blesses you. So
Yes,
thank you for
and,
that. We appreciate you being here, Max.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
Well, next up we have, we've got two people actually. We have Randy Lovins. He's going to be joined by his sister, Dusty Wojciechowicz. And they're originally from Ashland, Kentucky. And back in the 90s then they moved here, both Dusty and Randy did. They were roommates, brother and sister as roommates during their young single days here. I'm sure there's a whole other show we could do on all that. But
I miss those.
yeah, they were fun times, I'm sure. But sort of the life path that you were on, Randy, is you had a great voice. Orlando was where the boy bands were being sort of put together.
Yeah.
And so you auditioned for who?
The Backstreet Boys.
The Backstreet Boys,
Yeah,
yes.
That was back when I just kind of fell into it because I really wasn't a singer. I got the audition from, I was going to acting school.
Oh.
And a couple people had heard me one day just messing around there. And they looked at me real funny. They go, "Did you sing?" I'm like, "No, I thought they were going to tell me to shut up." I'm like, "No, I don't sing."
So you had the look and everything, right? And you had enough. At least to get
Evidently.
considered. I will say, I lived here in the 90s. Nobody asked me to be in the Backstreet Boys. So
I
you
would
had
have,
something
Troy,
going for you. So you had this sort of life path that you're on. We just had Max here. Max talking about show business and all the sort of temptations and things. Grew up in a Christian family, right?
Yes.
You got
Yep.
your family was very faithful.
Yes.
Definitely.
I think that's all we ever knew growing up. Our mom, again, taught Sunday school.
Yeah.
Dad's a deacon, also, kind of led the Sunday school program back home and
Right.
still is involved in that today. So that's what we knew.
And
growing
that's how our
up.
life was on Sundays, was church. That's all
right.
we knew.
Yeah.
Sundays, church.
Yep, that's right.
We didn't understand it when people wouldn't, "What are you doing for Sunday?" "Oh, we're going to do this." I'm like, "Sunday's church." I'm
Sunday's
like,
church, it's
Right.
always
It's always
That's it.
church. That's what Sunday is.
So you have this sort of foundation in your life, and then one day you're in a car, and everything gets turned around. It wasn't as easy as Max's, just on the side of the road. Yours was a lot more deadly, what you faced.
Yeah, it was on Cinco de Mayo of '98, and unfortunately, I don't remember that night about 3-4 months before it, or about 3-4 months after it, and my car careened off the road, and supposedly, Dusty would be able to remember
Yeah.
a lot more of it than I would.
Yeah.
Well, and he wasn't, he was home. He wasn't out doing the Cinco de Mayo thing that
Right,
people
the
typically
partying.
do, right? But he was still at home when I had gone to bed, and the nearest we can figure is he had gone out to 7-Eleven, which was less than a mile from our home, that was typical. He would do, "Oh, I'll just go run and, get, whatever, chips,
Slurpee.
whatever." And that's as near as we can figure. And
So he gets hit off the road, veers off the road. What happened?
yeah, veered off the road
Went
into
around
a
a
telephone
pole.
pole, wrapped his
Wow.
car, literally wrapped his car around
So
the
how
pole.
serious were the injuries?
He had a severe brain injury, and he actually did die at the accident scene.
Oh,
They
wow.
were able to revive him through the course. We ended up,
When they found me, I had
Yeah.
no vital signs.
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
so they rushed him to ORMC, and he didn't have his driver's license with him we just don't, again, know why, but so they didn't have anybody to call.
So I'm
And-
listed as a John Doe.
Yeah.
Right.
So I woke up the next day and he wasn't there, and it was weird. And I'm like, he's never out early. And so, long story was, I had to find him at the hospital and go identify him
Oh, man.
because they wouldn't tell me because he was a John Doe. They said, well, we have somebody here, and we want you to come in and see if this is your brother.
And you probably didn't recognize him.
And the only thing I recognized on him was his arm. I recognized his arm, but his face, unfortunately, was
Yeah.
severely damaged.
This was crushed into here. I had to have 5 titanium plates and 32 titanium pins on the whole other side of my face,
Wow.
which are still there to this day.
So there's rehab then, because you just don't walk away from that sort of
Yep.
thing. So how many months is that?
So 3 months in the hospital and rehab total, but that certainly wasn't the end of it. I think the thing that we learned through that is, you don't just wake up from a coma and go, oh, I'm back to my life, right?
Yeah.
It is a learning. He had to learn to eat, walk, talk, everything from the start all over again. And while he got out of the hospital, there was still long roads of recovery and
Yeah.
learnings, and
And I had both physical and mental rehabilitation.
yeah.
So all throughout that, I mean, I guess you're also sort of reestablishing your relationship with the Lord during that.
Yeah, definitely when
Do you forget that during that process, or?
I think a lot of the things that you don't really, you slowly start to remember. I think that time too, you kind of know, I think you really grasp onto it, because that was the last thing that I remember when I came out of my coma, is that last thing I remember is it was in an article that was written in the Florida Magazine a long time ago. It said that, but I remembered, I remember, like, it was like, you remember the real life and your dream
Yeah.
kind of mix up.
Right.
And I'm in like a big cloud white place, just walking, and I'm about from where you are to me now. I saw my grandparents, and I see them, remember them as clear as I see you right now.
Wow.
And I'm just thinking, well, they
Where am I?
passed away back in '95. I'm like, well, I'm like, Mama, Papa, and my grandfather just turns to me and just does that and points back. Right now, like,
Yeah.
I went to turn around, and that's when I started
That's fascinating.
remembering stuff.
And so there was a point through all this where you did sort of reestablish your faith.
Yeah, I
When
was
was that?
back one night going to bed. Things were not. I mean, my life was kind of crazy at the point, and things were not going right. But I was laying downstairs one night, and I keep hearing it through my head, like, okay, you know what? A lot of this stuff is going to happen. This is going to happen, and this is going to happen. But there's something I need you to do for me first. And I just got on the ground. I bet I was on the ground and prayed for at least an hour.
Wow.
And I went up and woke Mom and Dad up and said, we go to church tomorrow. I want to talk to Brother Carl because I want to
Wow.
get baptized again.
Yeah. So this sort of thing, how does somebody get through it without faith?
Yeah. Well, and he's going through this, and then certainly my family, my parents,
Absolutely.
and myself, we're I would definitely say somebody died at that time, but he's still here, and so that was a really difficult dynamic to really grasp. I'm like, okay, if it's so bad and he's so injured, why did you keep him, right? Why is he here? Will
Right.
he be able to even live? And so all those things circle through your head. And I do remember my mom saying, when you start meeting people in the hospital, you kind of have a camaraderie, right? And she
Right.
told me once that she was talking to a family who was also in ICU, and she said, well, I'll be praying for your family. And they said, well, we don't really believe in that, so.
Wow.
And my mom just said, well, that's okay. I do, and I'm going to pray for you anyway. And, who knows, just by her saying that, who knows?
Right.
They may never had exposure to it. So,
Yeah, it allows you to sort of tell your story in the midst of other people and show your faith.
yeah.
And then, you went through the rehab and everything, and you got your driver's license back, and then you got in another car accident.
Yeah, and I got my driver's license back, and 2 days later, on Friday, that Sunday, I'm driving to church, and naturally, Mom's riding with me and letting me know what to do, and I'm like, yeah, I got it, Mom. And I said, look, that guy's on my side of the road right there. I was just joking around because the road going over to it was a country road over
Yeah.
in Huntington, West Virginia, and the guy coming the corner, the road's real narrow. You just gotta, you see it and you scoot over. And I looked at him, I'm like going, I don't think that
He's
guy
not
sees
scooting.
me.
Yeah.
I'm like going, no. I'm like going, man, I turn my head, that guy hit
Head
me.
on.
Yeah. And that was a drunk driver.
Yeah.
And he was, I can't remember, he was either in his 70s or 80s and
no.
was already on a suspended license for drunk driving. And
So this sets you back
so,
a little
yeah.
bit, right?
Yeah.
All the advancement we made,
Yeah.
right?
I
Your
definitely
mom's
think
okay?
that Mom was okay. I mean, she had some minor injuries,
yeah.
but nothing that was long-term sustaining. And I think when he came out of it, it wasn't the same thing, right? He wasn't in a coma, he wasn't, but
Right.
it rattled him enough to
Right.
really set back, I think, a lot of the recovery that he had come through, because he was doing better, I think, than anyone ever thought. I don't think the doctors really thought that he was going to really walk again, or maybe
Yeah.
not talk. And but through that, I think God is faithful. But I remember when you had some doctors on, I think it was last week, that when you're in crisis, right, which we're in a crisis mode right now, and when she said, you just have to focus on today. You have to focus on the moment that you're in and the day that you need to
Right.
get in.
I remember that.
And I remember that hit home for me in a lot of ways because I remember that thinking, we just need to get through today. If he lives through today or he makes it from this hospital to the next, right? Just, it was day by day. And I think when things are so overwhelming, that's when you really have to let God, you really have to be okay to let
You
God
really do.
handle it.
Yeah, and don't worry about tomorrow, for
Right.
today has enough trouble of its own.
Right.
You were dealing with that, going through everything, all the rehab. And look at this, you're here today, you're telling the story, God gets the glory, you're singing in the choir.
Amen.
And, it's not the Backstreet Boys,
No,
right?
yeah.
But the audience is much better, the audience being
Y'all
God
have
himself.
no idea how much it means to me, and what just being here, being around with y'all, and feeling like, okay, my church back in Huntington, West Virginia felt like another big family, and I always wondered how was that feeling in, but when I'm here, I feel like I'm at home too.
Absolutely.
And
And
I
it's
just-
family. That's what it's all about.
definitely.
Well, thank you, Dusty. Thank you, Randy, for coming here and
welcome.
telling your story.
very
Really
welcome.
appreciate it. Well, our next story, we just want to start with a warning, first of all. The content that's part of this story is going to be very sensitive, very graphic. So if you have children in the room, you may want to have them leave, but it's still an amazing story. I want to give you some statistics, first of all. We're going to be talking about pornography. And here's some statistics. Who's watching porn? Well, 1 in 5 youth pastors, statistics say. 1 in 7 senior pastors. 64% Christian men and 50% Christian women. And 28,258 watch porn every second. And over $3,000 spent on porn every second. $13 billion in revenue a year the porn industry receives. And 84% of the population has viewed porn between 18 and 49 years old. Now, here's the other thing when it comes to searching for it. 25% of the search engine's requests are related to sex. 35% of the downloads pornographic. 40 million Americans say they regularly visit porn sites. 70% of men aged 18 to 24 visit a porn site at least once a month. The largest consumer group is men between 35 and 49. 1/3 of all the internet porn users are women. Very interesting. Here's something else. Sunday is the most popular day of the week for viewing porn. And finally, Thanksgiving is the most popular day of the year for viewing porn. So obviously, this is a problem. Obviously, this is something that the church can't ignore any longer and just hope that it gets taken care of some other way. We do have to address it. And so I have with me Ed Loke. Ed is here today. And we do have a group, a support group, that comes together to help people that are dealing with the addiction to online porn, because it is an addiction and it has infested our church. Ed, why do you think this topic is just so important for people today?
Let me take a couple of minutes. First of all, I was in the statistics for a long time. Let me tell you some of what goes on in the addict. Okay, if you're a believer, you have the Holy Spirit who's convicting you.
Right,
He's telling you this is not what God wants for you.
right.
And Satan takes that and shames you with it.
Oh.
He tells you there's something wrong with you. You're the only one going through this. You can't tell anybody, and you're on your own. So you try harder, and you may have some success for a while, and when you fall again, and you will, because you're trying harder on your own.
Right. Yeah.
You're
On
going
your
to fall
own is
again.
the key.
The shame increases, and the cycle increases. It can get faster. The loop, the spiral gets tighter. The fall gets faster,
Yeah.
and so forth. So you have that conversation in your head, and what the church, what I think the church needs to be.
Right.
What's the treatment? How can the church help? Provide a place where there is acceptance without judgment.
Sure.
This is a sin. It's a common sin. You just read the statistics.
Yeah.
It's not something new. Sexual immorality, sexual problems, sin has been, has always been there.
It's always been in the Bible.
There's just a new way.
It's all packaged a different
and
way.
it's much more accessible. It's easier now.
In the world, it's sort of a punchline. It's a joke if you watch porn in the world. But it's a very serious matter with a Christian. But just what you said, it's the Bible talks about dragging the Holy Spirit to a prostitute, and sort of taking the Holy Spirit into that act. And this is that same thing. The problem today, compared to when we were kids, because I was thinking about, we had our magazines and things, but you had to go to 7-Eleven to buy it. And I didn't have the guts to do that because I know my mom was going to walk in and, what are you doing here? And so I never did that, but I always relied on other people who got them from their dads. And then there was the drive-in. And so you had to do some effort that night to go to the woods and hide in the woods or hide in the trunk to watch it at the Lincoln Drive-in near us in that area. But today, I could pick up a phone if it was sitting right here. I could pick up the phone and start watching it.
Right.
It's way too easy. So the temptation's greater.
Right. Yeah.
And it's not missing people in the church at all. I mean, they're just as susceptible.
No, certainly. And I've seen in secular society a lot frequently where they're talking about the downside, right? That the effects that it has on your brain, on your relationships, and so forth. I think we need to pick up on that, and the damage it's doing to the soul, and the damage it does to marriages and to families and so forth. So, but a safe place.
It is adultery, by the way. It is adultery, and Jesus made that clear in Matthew.
Right.
That if you lust for a woman, it's committing adultery. But it's like, well, nobody's getting hurt, and that's wrong. That's not true.
That's exactly right. This is a very pernicious sin, because if you're in a serious relationship, if you're in a marriage, when it gets exposed, and it will, you'll find out the hurt that it's going to cause, that it's causing, and it's detracting. It's keeping you from being your whole self, your real self in that relationship. I was, and typically addicts are, living a double life, and that, Paul says, the thing that I want to do, I don't do. The thing that I don't want to do, I do. Mm-hmm. And you're living that out every day,
right.
And you see it in yourself, and there can be self-loathing, there can be depression, there can be all of that, okay, in the person that's showing up on Sunday, going to small group, leading a small group, a pastor, whatever, and that's not the whole self.
Right.
That's not the true self.
So you have a group that meets, and we're going to give an email address if people want to email you directly.
Yep.
We keep it very quiet. We don't advertise when it meets or where it meets. We let them find out through you. We want to make sure there's anonymity. You have people in there right now.
Sure.
That are saying, I want to beat this, and I've realized that I cannot fight this myself.
No, you can't.
I'm going to need support system, and most of all, I'm going to need God to get you through it.
Right.
And so it is a safe place when you get together with everyone else, because everyone else sort of sees each other as equals there.
Right.
But it shouldn't be that way with the church. I mean, when it comes to the church, alcoholics, for example, or people dealing with drugs. I mean, we're very accepting of them and try to help them through it. This is just another addiction. It just has a different form.
Right. At some point, we need to try to remove the stigma, right, so that men and women, right, feel safe. The church needs to be a safe place, no judgment, where they can confess, God's honored when we agree with Him.
Yeah.
And where they know that they can do that. You don't just go on the street corner and do that. You do that wisely,
Yes.
carefully, where they're going to get help, where there's some structure and some curriculum, all biblically based.
Yeah.
And real, genuine help, commitment on their part and yours, and in the church's part, and then some accountability. Gently hold them accountable to those things, to transforming, and the commitment to being transformed,
Absolutely.
right, and the renewing of their minds.
So the series you're going through is the Conquer series.
That's correct.
And we're going to give the email, the web address for that if anyone wants to check it out. There's sort of a military, sort of war theme to all of it. You'd appreciate that, being ex-military. And this is a battle.
It is a
a
battle.
fight. And that's the theme of what the series is about. and don't go into a battle alone
Right, and don't go in without a plan.
without a plan.
Yeah.
So here are some of the addresses to help you with that. First of all, if you go to xxchurch.com, and I know it seems weird when you're typing that in, but I'm telling you it's a legitimate website, and there is places in there for accountability. These guys actually go to the porn industry conventions and bring people with porn out of that industry, so they're amazing. Covenant Eyes is another place. And there's accountability built into that. So if your website information is sent to a friend who sort of says, you were checking out this site over here. So you can do that. And then the conquerseries.com is the series that Ed and the other guys are going through. And then his email address, if you want to email him, is ed.logue@reagan, REAGAN.com. That goes right to him. Only he checks it. He'll give you the information. You're not going to get any shame or judgment here, and he's going to help you and guide you with that plan and that structure.
Let me make sure I spell my last name. ed.logue
Yes.
at
yes.
reagan.com.
Yes, I spelled Reagan right, but I don't know if I spelled Logue. But we appreciate you being here. You know what? Your boldness to be able to stand up here is going to be start a movement. There's going to be somebody else out there that's going to say, I need help.
Troy, God allows these things to come into our lives. You know, Scripture is clear. You suffer so that you can turn around, so you can be healed. You turn to God, be healed, and turn around and help others.
Right.
And that makes us more than conquerors.
Absolutely. And you know, we're named Family Church. We want to help the families. This is going to help the family. The statistics don't lie. There is a number of people who are watching this right now that have this battle right now, so we want to get them help. So thanks for being here. Hey, if you have a story also, just like any of these people that were here today, could you let us know what it is? You can just email us at story@ourfamily.church. You know, we may use you in one of these television story times that we have here, or, you know, maybe we'll just something we could post, and we would just love to know how God has made a difference in your life. Also, join us tomorrow. It's Friday. We always have tremendous worship that sort of leads us into the weekend. We hope that you will join us for that. You know, Chuck is also going to be giving an update tomorrow on Facebook about coronavirus and the opening of our church. And so watch for Facebook for that announcement and what we're going to do. Thanks for being here. Go tell your story and go be the church.